ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here.
We testing the game.
Let's do it.
Oh, yeah.
No BS, OBS, camera zoomed in, and the chat is lit. Stay tuned in, like Zach Morris got detention like the cool kids. I do's this, homie, I thought you knew this. If you did it, now you do, I had to prove it. Thanks for watching. What's everybody's favorite topic? Leave a comment in the chat and please
Refrain from gossip.
stop it. If you hating, there's no debating, promise. I'm going up like Hakeem. I can't wait to block you. Sorry, no dog, cause this a party. Get your popcorn ready, we about to get it started. I'm super grateful, thank you all for being with me. How we looking, am I good?
Sitting pretty.
I'm elated that you would take time to kick it with me. And I ain't famous, so I'm grateful for the subs you gifting. Shout out to Shadow, I know my guy is always listening. And I appreciate the bits, fire emoji pimpin'. Let's get it, I'ma give you what you came to see. Just hit that follow button from me and we can proceed. An OG, Child's High, class of 03. Shout out to everybody back home and those that's in the stream. I appreciate you listening.
Let's go.
Let's get it. Yo, we did it. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Shout out to everybody back home. Speaking of home, feels good to be back. I just got back from London, England, innit? Yeah. And to no surprise at all, they really talk like that. I had a great time. I was in London for what's referred to as the BETT. It's a British Educational, Technological, something or other. I really can't remember the acronym, but it was an EdTech event, and I was there for work, and we had a good time of it. I think it was successful, and so, yeah, but it feels good to be home. It was a lot of travel, but London is very pretty. For anybody that's had the privilege of going or hasn't, I encourage you to get there. It's pretty cool. And sure enough, some of the Uber is really big over there and it's super easy. In fact, I'll tell you the whole story. But before I do, I'm really geeked about these new sound effects, y'all. Huh? Come on. Round of applause for that. I hope that comes through. So yeah, I had fun yesterday playing with the sound effects and getting the Elgato Stream Deck. This stream is sponsored by Elgato. Got the light, got the Stream Deck, got the cam link. Not really, but shout out to Elgato. Shout out to the chat. Hey stranger. There's a couple folks in the chat. Let's give it up for the chat. Respect. Hopefully those sounds come through. Do you hear those? Let me know, chat. And thank you for being here. I'm gonna pull these up. Yeah. Can you hear the sounds in the chat? Don't make me fire this thing off again. Shadow, Brigitte, can you hear these? Can you hear that? I'm looking for a confirmation, ladies and gentlemen. There may be a terrible delay. Don't know. Oh well, I'll assume you can hear it. No. Wow, that's terrible. Awesome. So I'm over here playing sound effects and nobody can hear it. That's dope. Shadow, you'll have to tell me how to get that working. That is terrible. I almost want to quit this thing and start over. But I'm not going to do that. I had a hell of an intro. Got through it all in one take. Bummer. Wah, wah. I can hear it. All right. Have to play with that later. Well, then in the next episode, you'll be really surprised to hear all the cool stuff that you're not hearing now. Anyway, getting back to the story. That's because they're baked into the intro. Yeah, see? Yeah, you hear the sound effects in the intro song because I put them in the song. That's pretty cool. But no, I've got my little board set up. Wonder why it's not working. It's probably a trick I just didn't know about. Oh well. So London was cool. As I shared with you, Ubers are a big thing over there. But watch this. So I have a cell phone through my company, right? And so I have cell service in Norway, and I had roaming turned off. So when I landed in England, the cell service didn't work. And that was kind of anticipated, but I figured, oh, it won't be a thing. I'll get on the train. I knew where I was going. I figured out where the hotel was. And so sure enough, I get off the plane and I go to talk to one of the people in the airport. And I'm like, listen, I'm trying to get here. And I show them what the address to the hotel is. And they were like, yeah, mate, you need to take the Elizabeth line. And I was like, damn, I'm really in this thing. It felt just like a movie. And so I'm like, okay, the Elizabeth line. So I try to figure out where the train terminals are. And I don't know if I'm in the tube or the train. There's a lot going on. But I found my way, and I figured I had to get a ticket. Everywhere that I've ever been, you need a ticket and you gotta get through. And I'm talking to one of the guys. He's like, no, Mike, you just tap it. You tap it in, you tap it out. I'm like, tap it? He's like, yeah, with your card, innit? I was like, all right. And I know it might sound like I'm putting on an accent for the purpose of doing one. It's really like that. One of the funniest moments to me was I was actually at the conference event and I overheard these two gentlemen having a conversation. And after every statement they made, they asked a question. And I can't remember what they were discussing, but it was like, yeah, it's a beautiful day, isn't it? And they were like, no, they're not gonna make it to the top of the Premier this league, are they? It was like every time they said something, they asked a question. I was like, that is too funny. So when I do the innits and the questions, it's kind of to do the accent more authentically, but also because it's pretty founded in truth. It was a trip. So I made it on the Elizabeth line, and now I'm a little concerned because I really don't know where I'm getting off. The people that I were talking to, while helpful, you know, they didn't really give me all the details. It wasn't their job to do that. So I get it. And again, I don't have cell service. So no Wi-Fi, no cell. So I'm thinking to myself, well, how did they used to do it? You know what I mean? 30 years ago, nobody had cells like this. And so I'll be all right. And so I'm seated on the train. And for those that know me, you know, I'm not shy. So I made conversation with about 2 or 3 people seated next to me. And one of them was very helpful. They pulled out their phone and they were like, I think I know where you're going. And I was like, great, can you help me? And they were like, yeah, you need to get off at Whitechapel. I was like, cool, perfect. I was like, any idea where that is? And they were like, just keep watching the signs. I was like, I bet. So I'm riding the train, innit? I'm riding the Elizabeth line, and it goes and goes. And then I get off at Whitechapel as instructed. And when I get off this stop, it was straight out of a movie scene. I must have got off in some part of town where it was hustling and bustling, and there were people of all cultures. I mean, I could hear 3, 4, 5 different languages being spoken. There were food vendors. I'm like, ooh, mind you, no cell. So I'm just out there. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'll just get a cab. It's gotta be easy to get a cab. I'm in a big city. I'll just hail a cab. What I failed to realize was, at least in London, maybe in England too, the cabs, the taxis are all like these old school cars. I don't know if you've seen them or if you've seen them in the movies, but they're all modeled just like that, where they look like this, almost like a hearse in all honesty. They got the big front end grill and they got the little taxis on the front. But I wasn't looking for those cars. I was looking for like modern cars or taxis that I'm accustomed to seeing. So I'm not seeing any taxis. I'm like, fuck. So again, I'm not shy. So I stopped a guy. I'm like, excuse me, bro. Listen, I'm not from around, obviously. I was like, how do I get a cab? And he didn't speak English, poor guy. He was like, taxi? I was like, yeah, how do I get a taxi? And he was like, and he didn't know. And so he's telling me to go one way. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll just do that. So I'm walking and mind you, I'm so disoriented because I just got off the plane, just finished riding the train. Now I'm in the city. Don't know where I am. Don't know how far from the hotel. So I keep walking. And instincts just kick in, and I'm looking at the food vendors. I'm hungry and the food looked amazing. So I was like, man, I should do that. But I'm going to have dinner with my boss and one of my colleagues. So I just keep it moving. And I stop another guy. He's like a worker or like doing construction or something, but he's in between, he's taking a break. And so I figured he'll know where I'm at and where I need to go. And I had saved the address on my phone to be able to show people in case I needed this assistance. So I'm walking and I'm like, excuse me, bro. I was like, I need your help, man. And he too didn't speak English all that well. I can't tell you where he was from, maybe Eastern European, I don't know. But super cool and helpful. And he was like, oh, I know where you're going. I was like, cool, tell me. He was like, okay, you just go up 5 blocks, okay? I was like, okay. He's like, so you take 1 light. 2 lights. Anyway, he does this on. And he's like, make a left, 2 rights, 1 street, and you're there. I'm like, dude, there's no way I'm going to remember that. He was like, it's easy. I was like, all right, maybe I'll just keep walking and I'll figure it out. So I did. Again, heart of the city. It's evening. I'm trying to meet my colleagues for dinner. I'm going to get there somehow, some way. So I keep walking, and there's another gentleman who's taking a smoke break. He's actually rolling his cigarette himself. So I thought that was interesting. He was putting the filter in it, and I don't know, it was just different than what I'm accustomed to seeing. Don't know if that's a British thing or European thing, but it was different. But he was doing that, and I was like, excuse me, man, I'm so sorry. I was like, listen, I don't have cell service. I was hoping you could help me out. And he was one of the friendliest people that I met in this little scenario. And I asked him, I was like, listen, how do I catch a cab? He was like, you know the cars you're looking for? I was like, no, I don't, as a matter of fact. And he tells me and reminds me of that. I'm like, oh shit, no wonder. And he was like, yeah, there'll be one coming, I'm sure. All you gotta do is look out for that. So now I know what I'm looking for, right? These like old school, I'm calling them that. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's how it feels. These old school cars with the big body frame, got the big grill in the front and the taxi sign up top. And he says most of them are painted black. So I said, cool. So sure enough, I'm walking down the strip. Now, I'll remind everybody, they drive on the opposite side of the road, which is also really trippy. But at this moment, I don't really care about all that. I'm just trying to flag one of these cars down and get in it because I'm trying to make my way. And sure enough, I see one of these prototypes come by and the light looked to be on, which indicates that I think they were vacant. And there's a light. Now, I'm not at the light, so I'm running, got my luggage, and I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna catch this cab. So I stop, I'm like, yo. And he sees me, rolls down the window. He's like, where you headed? And I tell him, and he's like, get in. Now, I think where I messed up, in my favor, I didn't say the name of the place right. I think I was staying at the Doubletree Dockside or Dock something. But at the time, I called it something slightly off. And so he thought I was going somewhere else. But that's cool. So he lets me in the cab. So I get in the cab and I'm just like exhausted. I've been running. I'm I don't know where I'm at. And he tells me, where you headed? And I show him the thing. He's like, oh, mate, that's across the river. And I was like, can you help me out? He's like, yeah, normally I wouldn't do it, mate, but we can do it. And I'm like, great. And he tells me how much the fare is going to be. I'm like, cool, I'll pay you whatever you want, man. So we do that. And what was cool then is I got to go in like an underground tunnel, and he tells me that this tunnel has been around for like 100 years. So that was kind of cool. And we go under. I never know if I'm saying this right. I don't know if it's the Thames or the Thames or the Thames. I'm going to say the Thames River. And we get to the other side, and he pulls up right in front of the hotel, and it all worked out, as it does. That's one of my mantras, one of my affirmations. It always works out. And for me, typically, it does. So super grateful to all the help that I got on that leg of the trip in London. And sure enough, that cab driver. But then watch this. We go out to dinner. My boss and I, as a matter of fact, my colleague didn't make it that evening. We went to this dope Indian spot, as a matter of fact. They got great Indian food over there, and I like Indian food. And so I'm telling him, this series of events, and he's like, I have cell service because we got the same provider. And I'm like, oh, I was like, maybe he was like, is your roaming on? I was like, no, I don't think it is. And so he showed me, he told me to do that. And so I did. And sure enough, then I had cell service. And so from then on, life was a bit easier. And then I downloaded the Uber app, and life was a breeze after that. But what I anticipated was, as soon as I connect with my colleagues, then I'm on autopilot. I don't have to worry about much. We're all together. They'll tell me where the event is and where I'm going. I'll just roll with them, So but in the end, I was really glad that it worked out the way it did, because I had the Uber and I eventually would need that. So that was my first night in London, and sure enough, it was an experience. And it was a good one. Thank you for the love in the chat. I don't think it's book worthy, but it is what happened to me. So I hope that anybody that's watching, finds it mildly entertaining. Otherwise, what is this all about, right? It's like a vlog diary. My man. Thank you, bro. I wish, come on, these don't work. You're not hearing that. That is so deflating. I spent so much time on these pretty cool sound bites for you all, sound effects. Got them all set up. They each have their own little icon. I'll have to figure out why that doesn't work. Bummer. All right. Anyway, so there's more to London. As I shared with you, we're there for an EdTech event, and it was huge. They say it's, if not the largest, one of the largest. It might be the largest in the world. Again, it's called BETT, and I can't remember what the acronym is. British Education Technology. Can't remember. But it's an EdTech event. So they have vendors, merchants, teachers, instructors, universities, K-12, I mean, anything to do with education. And certainly to no surprise, one of the hottest topics at the event was that of AI, both on the provider side and the customer side, because a lot of institutions are really concerned about AI in school and how it's affecting not only student learning, but how it can impact their ability to cheat and use AI for writing assessments, essays, taking tests, etc., etc. But the truth is that it's here. It's not going anywhere. And I think we all have to kind of adapt. And I think it can be used as a tool, just like all things. The internet was a game changer too, and this is just the natural evolution of that. But there are many providers that are working on ways in which you can detect when these AIs are being used. And AI, I'm using that very loosely, like Chat GPT, GPT-4. There are many others. Many vendors and merchants, such as we, are starting to explore incorporating the ability in our capacity to create content that much more quickly and easily. You insert a link or a prompt and things will kind of be created automatically for you. So in one capacity, it's amazingly powerful. And I suppose the same could be said on the other side too. It's just that I recognize that for students and learners, part of it is the assessment. We need to understand what you know. And if you're using AI to demonstrate that, that's not what you know. That's your ability to prompt well. Though that in itself is a skill and an art form, and I think there's value to that. And I think prompt engineers are going to become more prevalent and experienced, and that's kind of the new job, But it was very cool. It was insightful. I got a chance to check out a lot of different vendors. Some of the things that kind of piqued my own personal interest outside of my profession is that of like esports and gaming. There was a presence there, so I thought that was pretty cool. A lot of simulators, people playing driving games and some other things. There were some in-class game experiences too, which I thought was pretty cool. Other than that, I think our product and platform stands alone. For those that don't know what I do, I'll give you the opportunity to hear the quick pitch. You ready? H5P is a solution that was created, and it allows primarily educators to create interactive learning content for students. And it's easy to use, and that's kind of the short of it. H5P.com, which is our software as a service. The key advantage to it is that so many institutions, whether you be a university, a college, a K-12 school, you probably use a learning management system, a place where your students log in, basically where your coursework lives. And our platform integrates seamlessly. That allows your instructors to create content directly, easily. It allows for scoring and grading when supported. So that's kind of the short of it. We have like 54 different content types that range from games to quizzes, some based in arithmetic, some that are great for language learning, interactive video, branching scenario, virtual tours, and the list goes on. So that's the short of it. And I give you all that because I've pitched that probably 9-10 times. Not quite that way. I'm giving you kind of the modest version, if you will, only because most of y'all are like, who cares, bro? But nonetheless, that's my world on that side. And so that was really my presence at this conference. They had a feature called Connected BETT. And what we did before the conference began is we would identify prospective customers and us, prospective vendors, and the system would kind of link us, right? Kind of like a dating app, if you will. So you go through and you send invites to your prospective leads or individuals that you'd like to meet with. And if it's a match, you get matched up and then it pairs you accordingly. So I had probably 19 meetings scheduled at the event, unfortunately for me, and this was not uncommon, I'm afraid, but so many of my meetings were no-shows. So that was very disappointing, particularly because, that was my primary purpose for being there, was to host these meetings and have the opportunity to connect face to face. So much of the conversations that we have are that of telecommunication, whether it be virtual like this or via email. Probably 90% of all communication that we have, maybe even more, is textual through email. So I was looking forward to having a seat and, chat one-on-one with some of our potential customers, but it wasn't a total loss. We did get an opportunity, probably had maybe 7 or 10 meetings in total. So that was good and success. And I look forward to following up. And for anybody that might ever see this, thank you for your attendance. It was a pleasure. And I hope that we can work together. So yeah, that was kind of it. And I don't know what more there is to share about England. Oh, watch this. So day 2 of the event, for me, my day ended around 3-ish. And because of the no-show, frankly, even earlier than that. And I thought to myself, if I come all this way to England and I only do this event thing, it's not going to feel like I really experienced what London might have to offer. And my mother, some of you will know this, but and now let me preface. You don't gain a lot of insight and understanding until later in life. Maturity does that to you. So watch this. My mother was an executive. I don't know if that's exactly the title at the original museum, but she was an executive director most recently in her museum career at a science and art museum in Tallahassee, Florida, where we live and I rep for. But before that even, she worked at the Miami Museum of Science and Space Transit Planetarium. Say that 4 times fast. So growing up, I lived at these museums pretty much every summer. We would get enrolled in summer camp. Now, at the time, I didn't love summer camp because anything you have to do is not fun. And when it's all learning and science and blah, 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 it's really not fun. So me and my brother, we would get enrolled in these science camps. Now, again, looking back, I recognize just how privileged we were to be enrolled at these camps and have the opportunity to go. They're frankly quite expensive when you have to enroll and pay your way, but we got to go for free because our mom worked there. And we, particularly in Miami, we participated in some extraordinary classes. I mean, wading in the wetlands is one that I used to loathe and hate. You would go out into Miami's oceans and look at aquatic life and marine life. And it's one thing to learn about a starfish. It's another thing for a kid to be holding a starfish while they're learning about it. But for some reason, I hated it. Anytime I had to go out and do these crazy water sports things, I would just be like, please, can I just stay here and do something else? And so eventually, this is terrible to say, but it's true. Eventually, I found love. They had a theater class, and both me and my brother excelled in that. Yeah, go figure. But then it turned into magic camp. And so there were real illusionists that came from Vegas, and they would teach us as young pupils. Now, I was always the kid who got to not only be in the classes he wasn't really supposed to be in. So these were geared towards older students, whereas I'm just a little kid, and they let me participate. And then because of my mom and I'm just that kid, I enrolled in that class. I loved it. So I enrolled in that class in every chance I could. And so because I was in there so often, I just became friends with the magicians. So it was one primary illusionist and then his I don't know if pupil is the right word, but his protege, if you will. He was bringing up another illusionist. And frankly, that young man was even better than the other dude. So they both kind of befriended me and took to me, and they would show me things that none of the other kids got to see. So at the end of every week, you basically put on this big magic show, and all the kids get to show their parents the tricks that they learned that week. Well, the real magicians then put on a real magician show. And so they disappear and they levitate and they do some crazy stuff. And so I got to see a lot of that behind the curtain because I was always around. So I very much appreciated that. But going back to the purpose of all this, there were a lot of other cool things. My brother got to go sailing, and there was science, and we had dissection, and I mean, really, really cool stuff looking back. But at the time we hated it because it felt like school. So not only do we have to go to school, we got to go to school in the summer. That ain't no fun. But it was my mom's way to keep us occupied, and how wonderful we got to learn some things and be exposed to really cool people. And you have to do something in the summer. You know what I mean? So that's what we did. So I grew up in and around museums, right? Fast forward. So now I'm an adult, and I appreciate what museums are, and I would love the opportunity to see the Tate Modern. And of course, my mom, while I'm gone, is messaging me sometimes and asking how I'm liking it. And she's like, are you going to have a chance to see any museums while you're there? And sure enough, I wasn't going to tell her right away because I kind of wanted to surprise her, because I'm sure she wouldn't have assumed that I had interest in or intended to. But I did. I told her, I was like, I'd really love to see the Tate Modern. At the time, I didn't know if I'd have the opportunity because I had these commitments with work and then dinner at night. But sure enough, I cut out day 2 because my session didn't show, and there wasn't really much more for me to see. After day 1, I kind of saw just about everything at the event that I thought was kind of pertinent to me. So I spoke to my colleague and she was like, yeah, it's all good. So I did. I got the Uber and I hit the heart of the city. That's where the Tate is located. And that was super cool because now I'm in a car kind of by myself with the driver, and I get the opportunity not only to chat with them and have that one-on-one, but really experience what London is through the windows of this vehicle. And it's a very pretty city. To no surprise, it rained a bit while we were there. I think that's part of it. And yet it was cool. A lot of the buildings feel a bit older, and there's like rich history. Even if it isn't like a historic building, it feels like it's been around a little while. A lot of brick. And so I made it to the Tate Modern, and I got to walk around, and I don't think you can experience all that is. It's a huge museum. In fact, there was like 6 or 7 different floors, and each one is separated. But I got to see a lot, and I took some photos. I asked because I didn't know if that was appropriate. I asked if one could take photos. They told me that videography was prohibited, but you could take as many photos as you wanted. And so I took advantage of that just to have that and share with my mom particularly, but a couple of the people as well. And they had some really dope exhibits in there. And so if anybody ever has the chance, I would encourage it. And I'm sure, like most museums, the art changes, and I think at least one of the featured exhibits I didn't go into because you had to pay to get in. And frankly, I think it was the entire 6th floor, and I was kind of pressed for time. And so I didn't have the opportunity to really experience that. But I think it was like featured for mirrors. I think they do a lot probably with mirrors and lighting, and I'm sure it's a very cool vibe in there. But I got to see a lot of what I think I wanted to see, which was some of the smaller exhibits and some of the pieces that I thought would speak to me personally. So great experience. Got to do that. Afterwards, I got to walk around a bit. I walked by Shakespeare's Globe, which I think is a playhouse that they still host plays in, probably primarily Shakespeare, but it was cool to see that. And something else that was important to me is I really wanted to go to what I deem to be an authentic pub. You know what I mean? I wanted to have a proper pint in a proper pub. And while that didn't happen, the intention was always to link up with my colleague. And so I made it back towards where the hotel was, and I did find a pub. Ironically, it was a German pub, so it wasn't like a British pub. But it was still cool. The people in there were dressed accordingly. It felt very pub-esque. And so I did have a pint there, and then we had dinner, and that was cool. The server at the dinner was really nice. He was a young guy and had a great personality. And sure enough, they talked just like you would expect. But I was giving it back to them, and I think that they appreciated that because I would break character and tell them where I'm from, and they had never been to America. 2 or 3 of the Uber drivers that we got into cars with, it became this joke, whereas again, I'm overly friendly. I like to connect with people because why not? That's how you learn where you are. That's how I did it in Norway, and that's how I do it wherever I go. I think it's a superpower, so I use it. And so in the Ubers, I would sit up front because there were 3 of us typically. And so they would be like, here's your new friend. His name's Steven. I'd be like, all right. And so we'd get in, and they think I was the one that orders. So they're talking to me, but that's fine. And Steven, I think it was his name, he was a proper git, mate. And he had the thickest English accent. In fact, I think I insulted him. I was like, I hope you don't take, I was like, you've got a proper British accent. And he was like, English, mate. I was like, oh, apologies. Someone else told me British. He was like, no, mate, there's not few of us left. I'm a proper Englishman. I was like, you sure are. And so then it became cool when we were talking, and he was telling us about his family and wife. So I just connected. And then on the way to the airport, the gentleman who was my driver, he was actually Indian. Again, a lot of Indians in London. And yet when he spoke to me, he had like this Cockney accent. And I can't do Cockney as well as this old other version I'm giving you now, isn't it? But, so I'll save it. But his accent was thick in his own right when he spoke English. And interestingly enough, he had to take a call from his dispatch at one point on the call. And I think it was Indian that they were speaking. And if that's not right, apologies. But it wasn't English anymore. And it changed drastically. And he didn't know no kind of trace of an English accent. I was like, oh, that's so interesting how it can shift and change. And then when he was back with me, we were talking again. And for anybody that knows the Cockney accent, and I know it to be Cockney because he referred it to he referred to himself as speaking Cockney because he was telling me these stories, and I was like, yeah, because it sounds a lot different than Steven. But it was cool. It was really cool to have the opportunity to be there in general, and then to have these conversations with some real authentic people. And yeah, London, we did it. And then coming back, it was a trip. No pun intended. Long flights, but we made it. The worst part, ironically, was when I got home, the baggage claim didn't work. We must have waited for like 45 minutes to an hour to wait for our bags. And the frustrating part was we waited and waited and waited. And then they finally got it working. And so like 4 bags came out and like the people picked them up and left. And then we were all just waiting again. And then like 15 minutes later, it came around with like 6 other bags. And we were like, what the fuck is going on? And then finally they came on the intercom and they were like, we're sorry, passengers. There's a problem with the baggage. We're actually going to put your shit on the other. And we were like, fuck. So we just walked to the other one and got it eventually. And so I got out of there. But yeah. But we made it home and it was fine. It was about midnight. But for me, that's super late. And London is an hour ahead of Norway, as a matter of fact. So there was a bit of lag there. But I took yesterday to rest. And I'm feeling pretty good. I think I'm going to try to hit the gym today. Got somebody I'd like to meet. See? So there you go. But something else that I'd like to mention before we wrap up. I finished my book on the flight. I do a lot of reading when I travel. I happen to like it. It's one of the few times that I really immerse in a book. In my last trip, I may have shared this with y'all. I may not have. I visited the family in Cabo San Lucas. Shadow, is it me? Meaning, want to wrap up? I'm not sure what you're saying there, big dog. But anyway, so I do a lot of reading when I travel. And even when I commute, like when I used to take the bus predominantly in Norway, I would do a lot of reading and listening to podcasts. So it's kind of where I'm able to kind of zone in and do that. And I am a big proponent of reading. Now, it's a skill like any other. You have to kind of practice it to get good at it. Oh, are you the one I want to see, fool? Always, baby. If only that were true, huh? Would love to see you, man. Come on. This is where I would hit one of these buttons, pew, pew, or something. But again, you can't hear it, and that's disappointing. But I'll fix it. Something to look forward to. It's always cool to have something to look forward to. But for those that don't read, I encourage it. And I'm saying this with all my heart. Just like I gave you the museum thing. When you have to, it's not fun. So all those summer reading lists we had to do, all those book reports, yeah, no, I get it. That ain't fun. But now reading for one's enjoyment is wonderful, quite frankly. And it does something to your cognitive ability, the way in which you think, the way in which you're able to understand and interpret. It's a good look. And not for nothing, but it probably makes you a better speaker and, you know, it increases vocabulary. So whatever you're into. Shadow asks, what was I reading? So I actually started reading Ready Player 2 on my way back from the US to Norway in January. Because I downloaded a book on my phone. I do that from time to time because it's just so easy. They have all the titles, and if you're not near a bookstore, you can just do that. And so I read a wonderful biography about Jay Prince. And I won't get into that now, but long story short, he's a music mogul on top of other things. And that was really cool and inspiring. So a bio. And then the second book I read was a very short novel that, in fact, Shadow and I picked up. And shout out to A&T. He was there too while I was in Jacksonville. But it was so short, I actually finished that on the plane ride to Norway. And so when I was in Norway, I was out of books, and there was a bookstore at the airport. Now in Norway, you're going to likely find it to be a bit limiting if you're looking for books in English, and that's understandable, right? But they had a wonderful section, particularly at the airport, and that made sense. And so I went over there, and I often enjoy reading science fiction novels or fantasy novels because it's just like an escape. It would be like watching the movie, you know what I mean? And I guess that's a genre that I'm into. And I had never read Ready Player One, but this book stood out to me in the store. It had like a purple cover and it was cool. And I knew Ready Player One. I hadn't seen the movie in some time, but that was my introduction to Ready Player One, was the Spielberg film. And I thought they did a great job of that. For those that don't know, no spoilers. Basically, it's a story set in the future. And in the future, there's like a virtual gaming environment. It's like the most immersive world, if you will. In fact, within the world, they call it the Oasis. There are worlds within the worlds. Worlds where you can experience first-person shooters, worlds that are dedicated to a certain pop icon, worlds that are dedicated to Lord of the Rings or a particular movie genre. I mean, it's in the story, it's crazy. Now, again, it's set in the future. But what's extra cool about it, particularly in Ready Player One, the gamers or the players wear these like haptic rigs. So you put on like virtual goggles and you wear gloves, and sometimes you even have the ability to afford suits and when you're walking around. So when you experience things in the Oasis, your body feels what's happening. So you have the sight as well as the feelings, and so there's a lot of cool stuff that happens. And in the movie, it's all about this basically treasure hunt. So again, I won't spoil anything if you haven't seen any of it, but there's like a treasure hunt, and it's pretty cool. So Ready Player 2 is the sequel, and it's an extension of that story. And so I was familiar with Ready Player 1, and so I was ready to go. I actually ended up rewatching the film when I got home to get back into it so that I could read more and understand, because they mentioned some characters and they just didn't make a whole lot of sense. I've forgotten who they were, but then it all put it back together for me. So Ready Player 2 was really cool. And I did read several chapters as I've been home. You know, there are some nights where I just want to keep it low key, and I'll light the candles and put on the fireplace background and watch the snowfall and read my book. But it doesn't happen often. And yet when I'm traveling, I read a lot. So on this trip, I burned through the last half or the last quarter of the book, and it was great. And so I share that with you primarily to encourage you to read, because it's really wonderful. And the trick is just simply read the things that you like. It doesn't even have to be fiction. You know, there's so much out there. It's the original podcast, ladies and gentlemen. So, but I get it. There's just so many entertainment options now. I mean, you're watching Twitch, you're listening to Spotify, podcasts. I mean, I get it. Movies on demand. It's hard, but there's something to it. When you read and you think, there's a reason why it's fundamental, people. And so watch this. This is an opportunity, and I'll take it. For anybody that saw the last stream, whether you were with me then or you rewatched it, I'm guessing not many of you, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Gwen was in the chat, and Gwen is someone with whom I work with, and she asked me that week as we were talking about the podcast and her attendance. She said, what else are you going to do in the stream? And I don't know. I mean, ideally, I'd like to make music. I shared this with you all last time, but I'm going to need a new computer for that. Eventually, I'll probably make that investment, and it'll be dope, and we'll be able to make records and do that. But that probably won't be every episode either. And she was like, have you thought about like reading a book on camera? And I was like, you know what's so funny about that? Shadow asked me the same thing, and he encouraged me to do it. And I was like, you think that's a good look? And she was like, yeah. So I took that to be a sign. So I'll ask you in the chat if you think it's a good thing. Let me know. I don't know how we'll do it exactly. In my mind, I would probably like create a new scene, and then you'd have like a different background. Maybe it'd be in a cool library or something like that. And we can just start. And I'll try to keep it as entertaining as I can. Okay, there's some love in the chat. I'm gonna hit it. You can't hear it, but it's popping. Yeah. Oh yeah. How about we test it now? How about not? I'm not prepared. I don't have a book is the real truth. So I don't prefer to read off the phone or devices. I can, and certainly I have made use of that, particularly when I don't have a book on demand. I'll download a book and then I have one. Give me a line of one of your book now. That book's not even in reaching distance. I'm not going to do that. Books now, books on demand. You're a demanding little fella today. I'm not going to do it today, but I tell you what, I'm grateful for the feedback. If it's something that you think we should do or want to explore, we'll try it. But then the question is, what book are we going to read? Now, I think it'll be more fun to do something entertaining, right? Not just, you don't want a book on, I don't know, epidemiology. Shout out to Big Brother Jonte. But we can. So if you're here and you have any interest at all, I'm grateful for the love and the feedback. I don't have a book within reaching distance. It's not going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. I wish I was lying to you and could hold it up and be like, oh, Ready Player 2. That's convenient. So let's do this. Let's figure out what book we might want to read and hear about. And then we'll just start it. And what'll be cool is I'll label the stream accordingly. Go get it. You're killing me. All right. You want it, you got it. The fans are demanding it. We're going to give it to you. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. I hit the buttons too, but you can't hear those cool sound effects. Here's what I got. Ready Player 2. You asked. I'm a generous streamer. All right, so you really want me to do this? You really want me to read something out of this book and get a sense of it? That's cool. I ain't shy. Do you want me to start it like it reads, or do you want me to just turn to any random page and read there? Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing. This is a trial run. This is a very loose test, but you asked for it, so that's what we're going to do. Ladies and gentlemen, Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline, and he should get the respect. He's a good author. Turn random. I love it. Here we go. And we're randomly there. Ooh. It was random. I'm going to turn down the lo-fi just a little bit so that I can hear myself think, oh my God, why am I more nervous about this than I was about the intro song? Isn't that funny? All right, so I guess I have to give you a little bit of insight. Otherwise, some of this is probably not going to make sense. So there's a team. They're called the High Five. All right. And the protagonist of the story his name is Percival. And I think that's all you need to know for this section. But the idea is they're on a quest within the game-like experience, the Oasis, right? And they basically have to restore the 7 shards of the Siren's soul to do something, okay? And these shards are spread out throughout the entire universe on specific planets. And on each planet, there's likely a theme. And they have to do things to unlock aspects of the planet and complete the quest. It just so happens, and I didn't know it at the time, but the reason the book cover looks the way it does is because one of the planets is dedicated to Prince. That's right. The icon, Prince. And so purple clouds, purple rain, all of that. And so that was a really cool chapter for me to read about Prince and have so much of the story be dedicated to him. So super entertaining and wonderful. And I hope that gives you some insights. I think the author has these interests and loves the 80s culture, because there's all 80s culture throughout the entire story. So anyway, we're on let's call it Planet Prince. It's really the symbol, if y'all know, right? The symbol. The artist formerly known as. So they're on Prince's planet and they're doing a quest. So we're jumping right in. Everybody cool? Buckle up. Pun intended. We got back in the little red Corvette and sped south on Alphabet Street. Morris Day and the Time followed behind us in their tour bus, which had their logo for the original 7 painted across the side. Once we were a few miles outside the city limits, the landscape around us abruptly changed, and the road led us into a desert that appeared to stretch to the horizon in all directions. Every 7 seconds, long lines of purple lightning descended from the sky to strike the desert sand, burning and melting it into strange pillared formations of purple fulgurite that dotted the barren landscape like sentinels. Fulgurite, never heard of that. Eventually, a small lone pyramid emerged in the distance ahead of us, just off the highway, like some sort of strange roadside attraction. When we reached it, H told me to pull over and motion the tour bus behind us to do the same thing. She told us all to wait while she ran inside to get something, and I watched from inside the Corvette as she ran across the barren sand over to one corner of the pyramid, which appeared to have no entrance. I used my HUD to zoom in with maximum magnification and saw that she was running her fingertips across the surface of one of the large stones that made up the pyramid's base. Then she leaned forward and blew a layer of sand and dust away from one tiny section of it, revealing several rows of hieroglyphs. She began to press them in a specific sequence like buttons. I heard a loud grinding sound as a massive stone at the base of the pyramid slid aside, revealing a secret entrance as she ran through it. A minute later, she emerged again, now wearing a huge smile on her face. As she jumped back in the car beside me, I saw that she was clutching 3 gold chains, each with a gold pendant shaped like a different element of the love symbol. The first pendant was a gold circle, which H gave to me. The second, a gold horn, which she gave to Shoto. The last was a golden aerodyne symbol, and this is a tough word. This is what's going to happen. Androgyny. That's tough. A golden, I know what it means, but it's tough when you got to read it out loud. A golden androgyny symbol, which H placed around her own neck. All right, she said, letting out a heavy sigh. Now we've got the 3 chains of gold too. I think we're as ready as we're ever gonna be. She pointed on the road ahead. Time to face the music, fellas. I pulled the Corvette out onto the road, the tour bus behind me, and gunned the engine again, hurling us forward towards the dark, luminous purple horizon ahead. A moment later, the desert was behind us, and we were in a strange, otherworldly purple landscape. With purple ranges in the distance and dark purple sky above our heads, it was filled with dark purple thunderstorm clouds with brilliant purple lines of lightning cackling across them. We put the top up on our little red Corvette convertible just in time, right before a big, fat drop of purple rain began to fall, creating a strange, syncopated rhythm as it drummed against the car's roof and the hood of the asphalt road ahead of us, and we continued to speed down. That's all you're gonna get from me today, but I hope that was cool. You got 1 line of dialogue, and I knew that was gonna be a thing. It would be cooler when they talk, because then I can maybe try to do a voice or two. But, purple rain, purple rain. I was hoping to get some feedback, but I didn't, so I don't know if it was cool or not. Bro. Now here we go. He gonna gas me up. Go ahead, man. Let me hear it. Gas me up. Purple rain. There was all kinds of Prince reference. You should add that to the stream. All right, let's do it. Oh, there's candles right there. I should have turned for the candle. I don't know how to do it. Anyway, there's a candle behind me. You can imagine it. Okay, you want to read? We'll read. I think it'll be a great addition. We could do it. I just need, I need a book, ladies and germs. I need a book. This book was cool. Too bad I finished it. And it's not worth starting because you have to have the understanding of Ready Player One. It only makes sense when you know the first. Read this one. I just told you I can't do that. And I don't want to read a book I've just read. Now, on the one hand, it's nice to know the story so that if you mess up or you skip something, then you know kind of where you were and you can fix it. But wouldn't it be cool to read a new one altogether? Now, look, I'm here for y'all. If you tell me, if the world says we want to read The Hobbit, I'll do it. I will. I'll read The Hobbit. But I would love to read something, I don't know, maybe a little easier. You know, Tolkien has his own languages. It's tough. It's tough. I would say Game of Thrones, but that is also ridiculous. Look how thick this book is. Okay? We should start with something a little bit less. Something we could get through. You know what I mean? Because if we're gonna do this, I wanna commit. I wanna read it. I don't want to start one day and be on chapter 1, and the next day I'm on chapter 17, and everybody's like, what happened? It'll be cool to go back. So just tell me what you want to read. But we'll do it. Maybe we'll get some feedback from this one. Put it up on the socials. Get one of you to respond, because that's about it. All right. How long we been going? 52 minutes. I like to go for about an hour. That's what she said. You can't hear it. She didn't say that. Damn, she wants a private reading too. We can arrange that. Hit that follow button, girl. We're gonna need you to subscribe. You know what I mean? Hit me with the biddies. That's cute. I love it. Thank you for the chat engagement. I'm grateful. I am grateful. So yeah. We did it. We told you a little bit about London. Oh, watch this. Here's something else. I'll leave you with this. I watched Creed 3 this weekend as I've been chilling and recharging. It was something I wanted to see, and thank you to Shadow and our good friend Caesar for the privilege of having the opportunity to watch Creed 3, and I did. I watched it. It was okay. I'll say that. It was good. Between okay and good. I don't know what that is. Better than fair, way better than bad. Wasn't great, I'm afraid. I mean, you've seen this story only literally a dozen times and more. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not getting anything new. I love Jonathan Majors. Them boys got stupid, jacked, and ripped. So that alone is inspiring and wonderful. And everybody that sees it says the same, like they want to go to the gym and get pumped. So I'm in the same boat. I can't wait. I've been working on my jump ropes in the last couple of weeks. I'm going to hit those and put on the soundtrack. But it's a cool film. And shout out to Michael B. Jordan. I don't know if it's his directorial debut, but he did a great job. And I enjoyed it. You know, it was entertaining. And I think they did some cool things with the cinematography. I know that anime was a big inspiration for some of the fight scenes, and I think I can get a sense of that. So if you haven't seen it, it's not Mando, but it's entertaining. It's good. Creed 3. Adonis. I did. That's where I saw it. That's where I saw it, Shadow. If there's something else on there that you're encouraging me to watch, let me know. But if you're telling me to check it out for the sake of this film, that's what I did. Oh yeah, delay. There's a way to improve the latency. I think there's a setting in my Twitch dashboard that I need to check out. We might have already ticked it, and in which case there's nothing we can do. Oh, Avatar. Let's go. Now that's one to watch, and I think there's someone else in the chat that might want to watch that with me. Affiliated. Philly. Bam, bam, bam. You can't hear it, but that was a perfect opportunity for those air horns. Bam, bam, bam. All right. How about a date night? Avatar. Cool. We're gonna do it then. Get your popcorn ready for real, because I think it's a long one. How long is that film, Shadow? Is it like 3 hours? Ugh, goodness. Might have to make that part of the Twitch stream. You get a little chapter of Avi every episode. Shadow's coming too. Great, it's a party. Yeah. I wish you could hear these sound effects. They make it. Popcorn. 3 hours. Yeah, figured. All right. James Cam, right? Woo. Avi. All right, bet. Well, that's something to look forward to. Thank you for that. Cool. All right. Well, listen, I don't know what everybody else is doing today. I know what at least one of you are doing. And that's what I'm going to do. I've got the gear on, ready to go. Creed 3 style. Gonna hit the gym. I need to get a little something to eat beforehand, fuel up, get my PVO on. It's funny, in Norway, the letter W in English is really a double V. You know what I mean? It looks like 2 V's. And in Norsk, it's W, which makes a lot of sense. It doesn't always. Let me say that. Some of the letter pronunciations in Norsk, I think, aren't what they should be. But this one, W, is more accurate than W. So when they say W as a standalone letter, they often say V, PVO. So how about that? But it's PWO. We actually don't say that, I think. We say pre or pre-workout. Good looking out, Shadow, my man. I think I did some cool stuff here. Check this out. Look at that. That didn't really work like I thought it would. Maybe this works. Nope. I'm trying to type some commands in the chat, and looks like I need to study up. There's one. Boom! Got that one. It's almost like an Easter egg when you know the command. So there's a plug for my dude. Shout out. The gratitude one should have worked. Oh, maybe I spelled it wrong, idiot. Right? This is why reading is fundamental. I thought I got it right because something came up right after, but it just happened that way. Damn, I must not be spelling right, or maybe it's misspelled in the command, or maybe I don't know it at all. Anyway. I know, LOL. I want bits, and I want emotes, and I need subscribers. We're not gonna get there today because we needed three viewers consistently, right? And we didn't get there. I know, it's all good. Maybe if these sound effects worked. I can hear it in my headphones. It sounds great. It's been all day. I got fades on them. I got delays on one of them. Oh well. VPN. I got that on my phone. You're too far. I don't know what he's saying. That's all right. Don't matter. I could stream myself, and that would count as a viewer. But if I do that, it'll kill my broadband, and I'd rather have a better delivery. So, facts, big facts, big facts. Look, we'll get there. If I was doing the music thing, I think we could get some viewership. Somebody might tune in and be like, "Oh, that's how he does it." I thought about recording yesterday. I actually wrote a little hook to one of these little remix joints I've been thinking about doing. Just saying. Came out that way, and I thought, oh, I could say that. But I did. I worked on this. I worked on these sounds that you can't hear. But more music to come. I just got back from London, innit? That was the subject of today's episode. Thank you again for being here. I'm totally grateful. I mean that sincerely. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the participation. I appreciate the encouragement. Hey, you want to read? We can do it. We need a book. Let's find a book. I'll go to the store tomorrow. We can do this. All right. I think I'm gonna call it. I think I'm gonna do that. It is 5-1 in Norway. I still gotta eat. Gotta gear up, get my mind right. Watch a little more Creed. Not really. Shadow, I'm confident that your day is just beginning, and so I hope you have a wonderful one. If you have to go to work, I hope it's a great day, bro. We look forward to following your streams. I hope that you go live, if not tonight, maybe tomorrow. One of us will tune in. That'll be your boy. You can't hear it. There's cool sound effects happening. And it's a little red. Hopefully I'll see you momentarily. Thank you for that. And ladies and gentlemen, that's it. It's a wrap. I'm going to hit the applause button. Don't care if you can hear it. I can. It's been great. We out. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again soon.